Most people spend their lives trying to stay safe, avoiding danger, avoiding discomfort, avoiding pain. But every once in a while, someone does the opposite. Someone walks towards the fire, not because they are fearless, but because they believe responsibility matters more than comfort. Today's guest is one of those people. Helen Zahos is an Australian nurse, humanitarian volunteer and academic, currently completing her PhD, who made a decision most people will never face. She chose to leave safety behind and step into a modern war zone. Iraq, Ukraine. But not as a soldier, not as a politician, not for recognition, but as a nurse. As a nurse, as a witness. A human being standing between life and loss. In a world flooded with opinions about war, Helen chose action. While many watch conflict through screens, she treated the wounded, sat with the broken men and women, and carried stories that don't fit neatly into headlines or statistics. This conversation is not about politics. It's not about ideology. And it's not about hero worship. It's about fear, moral weight, quiet courage, and what war reveals about humanity when there is nowhere left to hide. We'll talk about what it really feels to arrive in a war zone, the moments that almost broke her, the invisible cost of helping others, and why, despite everything, she kept going back. Because life, the battlefield, is not about glorifying conflict. It's about understanding what happens to the human soul when life becomes one. This is a conversation for anyone feeling overwhelmed by the world, questioning the purpose, or wondering whether one person can truly make a difference. I'm Mario Bekes, and this is Life the Battlefield. Welcome, Helen, to the Life the Battlefield. Helen, can you take us to exact moment when you decide to leave the comfort of your life, safety, being predictable behind in your life and go into the war zones?
I'm just trying to think now. I don't know why, but my mind just went to night shift on Christmas Island and seeing the refugee crisis unfolding in Greece, actually, and reaching out to an organisation and just thinking, if I'm going to go to Greece for a holiday, being a nurse and a paramedic, I felt guilty. Actually, I don't think it was the refugee crisis. I think Greece had the financial crisis at the time. But I felt guilt about going on a holiday, putting, just suntan oil or whatever on my body and just lying there while people were actually suffering, like people that I knew, my cousins, my family members. And I remember reaching out, it was night shift, Christmas Island, and I reached out to an organisation and I said, look, I'm going to be there for 6 weeks. Can I come for 2 weeks and volunteer in the clinic? And that way I feel like I'm giving back, not just taking from the country that I love, And it just stemmed from there. So I think once you dip your toes in and you've started with an organisation and you're in that space, then it becomes easier. So then when other things unfold, like the Iraq War, which had been going on for years, but doctors that I had met through the refugee crisis in Greece, I saw were headed to Iraq, and I reached out to them. And it was around the time of my 40th birthday, and my mum said, what are we going to do for your 40th? Are we going to organise a birthday party or something?
I'm so laughing, but yes.
And I just said, look, Mum, the money that we would spend on a party, or my birthday money, if you send that through now, I'm going off to Iraq. And she said, what? And I said, well, that money can be my airfare. So I reached out to one of the doctors that I had met. He was headed to Iraq as well. They were setting up a hospital over there. Mosul was still under stronghold. It was at the beginning of 2017, so ISIS still had a stronghold over Mosul, and there was a large internally displaced camp just outside Mosul. So yeah, there was a need, and it was in the news a lot. So it's very hard to be watching all this on the news and sitting down in the comfort of your home eating a meal and seeing these people starving, and you know. So yeah, I just decided I'm going to go and join them.
Most of people will never leave the comfort of their home. Never going to leave, predictability of their life. They will like to talk, theorize, to elaborate, but they're never gonna go where you went, into the war zone, but not with a weapon. You went with a kindness to help other people.
Yeah.
My question for everybody listening right now, particularly women across the globe, and you have a full authority and full credibility to speak about fear. My question is, and I was being told that bravery is absence of the fear, which is absolutely wrong. But standing where you stood right now, and those moments, how did you manage the fear? How come did you walk with the fear except running from the fear?
Well, my personality type has always been to run towards danger, not away from it. So while everyone seems to be running out of the firehouse that's on fire, I'll be jumping in. That's just, and there are people out there that are the same. That's not unusual. I think, what was the question again, Mario?
The question is most of us will...
The comfort of your own home, you were saying.
But it's I want you to teach people around the globe, particularly women, you walk with the fear. We don't, people don't understand what the war is. War is a horror, right? It doesn't matter what capacity you are, you're a war zone. So, how the Helen Zahos walk with the fear, not run from the fear?
Can I just say that any woman out there lives with fear every day. So it's no different to the fear I feel walking in the middle of the night down the main street here in Melbourne or in Sydney in a city as a woman. Nighttime, dark, whatever. As a nurse walking out to the car park at the end of my shift and there's no security around. Naturally, as a woman, there's an underlying fear or concern there. So you know that, you could be attacked at any time, like you're vulnerable. So that vulnerability is not unusual. But to take it that step further, I arrived in Iraq just with a suitcase. I had a little bit of paper in case my phone had gone flat with the instructions of how to get to, what do they call them? There was a compound, Italian compound where we were staying. So it was just a little bit of a scrap bit of paper with the directions on how to get there. And there was an underlying anxiety. I've never been to Iraq before. I don't know what to expect. I'd never actually been into a war before either. And here I am just turning up with my suitcase and hopping into a cab, hoping that he'll take me to where I've got to go. Knowing that being a woman in a very male-dominated, especially during war, but also in a country with different cultures, different religions as well. So in the back of your mind, there's extra layers of fear. But I also like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I remember arriving in Africa, and I'm in West Nairobi, and everyone said to me, I went off to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, and I had a few days, and I've arrived in Africa, again, that particular part of Africa I've never been to. Everyone was saying to me, please be careful, this is West Nairobi. I've booked a room, and I remember saying to the guy out the front, I'm going to go for a walk. And I knew the place was dangerous because there's barbed wire around the motel. But I walked out intentionally facing that fear. Like I had a fear, but I remember being preparing myself, take your jewellery off, make sure your passport's not on you, have an extra purse with some cash, expect to get mugged. But I pushed through. It was almost like testing the waters to see what will happen. So when I went, with that same kind of facing that fear, I had the best time that day. I ended up going through the markets. I was the only white person around. Muzungu, Muzungu. It was just, everyone was like, who's this white girl walking around these markets? And I had the best time. And yet I could have, and the best coffee. I ended up in a coffee place, in a cafe, had the best coffee, had a room full of people just staring at me like very unusual. And the conversations I had with people, like I would have missed out on all of that if I stayed behind in that hotel, behind the barbed wire, and didn't actually step out into the community and have a look. I would have missed out on just a beautiful experience. Likewise, going into, I think when you test yourself like that, going into a war zone, I didn't know what to expect. And I think that's one of the lessons I've learnt, and when I've spoken to other people who do similar things, is if you don't have expectations, like if you go in there and don't expect, like if you set yourself high expectations that you're going to be in a nice hotel in a comfortable place, whereas if you go in thinking, what's the worst case? There'll be no running water, no power, no food, you prepare yourself with the worst. I don't know, I'm probably not answering that very well, Mario.
No, I think you answered very well because it's very, very vivid, very alive.
I remember hopping into the taxi in Mosul, not in Mosul, just outside, and trying to get to this army compound. And I didn't realise that in Iraq, when you're coming into the airport, several kilometres out of the airport, when you go and check your cloak in at a...
Yes.
The same sort of thing. So as we're leaving the airport, the taxi pulls over to a little building and the driver hops out. I don't understand what's going on. And then suddenly he's handed over a ticket and he gets 2 guns, straps them in, puts a knife, he had something on his ankle, all these weapons come out. And then I was like, whoa, I'm in a taxi now. Complete stranger, trusting or hoping that he's actually going to get me to my destination.
This is what I try to say to you.
Yeah.
I'd never experienced things as you did. I experienced the war, but I'm the man.
Yeah.
Among the men. Armed to the teeth, and only worry was being soldier.
Yeah.
But being a woman, paramedic, it's totally different cup of tea. Now, I want you to tell us, from your point of view, what we see on news versus what you see on the ground. Let's go say Iraq.
Yeah.
How is the war depicted on TV, and how actually Helen Zahos, saw the war? Because you saw the both sides.
You do. Often the media will give the worst case scenarios because, there was times, even in the compound, you're meeting families, you're walking down the street. People in a war generally are trying to live a normal life. So there was 2 sides. When you're sitting a little bit further out, you're walking down the street, you're having lovely conversations with people. People embrace you because they know that you're an ally. Iraq was very different to Ukraine. Iraq, there was Americans around, Australians, a lot of allies, a lot of different army, like soldiers and stuff around. There's suffering. For me, it's the human suffering that you see.
Would you agree with me that regardless of what side of the war you are, let's say Iraq, you have the Iraqians and the fractions over there, different ISIS, Al Qaeda, whatever they call them, different fractions. But then you have as well on one side you have they call them Allied forces. Americans, British, the NATO forces, mercenaries, Blackwater. Would you agree with me that there is no winner in a war, that actually in reality both sides suffer?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been asked before, at what well, what side are you on? I've had family members in the past from Greece not accuse me, but being like, you should be on Russia's side. Why are you going to Ukraine to help, for example? I'm a nurse, I'm a paramedic. I see a human being in front of me. Like, people have asked me if that was a Russian soldier or a ISIS or whatever. Like, you know, if that, I don't ask questions. Like, if I'm, and I've shared this analogy before, if I'm walking along and someone's drowning in a lake, before I extend my hand to help that person, I don't ask them, oh wait, hang on, what religion are you first? What colour's your skin? Like, what side do you sit on politics? Are you pro-vaccine or anti-vax? Like, are you, none of that matters. That's a human being in front of me. So all of that stuff, I think that's part of your training as well, but that's just how I've been raised, is just not to see that human.
Is that what you think, that's the reason why we are?
There is no winner in war.
Why you are helping, you help everybody?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And I like to test my own boundaries because, you know, whether we like it or not, we are all raised with some form of underlying racism or underlying ideals that have been brought down from our parents or grandparents.
Yes.
If you ask me, like, I'm Greek heritage, mum and dad migrated here to Australia. And I remember as a little girl, my grandmother, every time I would go to Greece, she would say to me, Helen, in Greek obviously, but she would say, Helen, marry anyone you want, but not a Turk. Do not marry a Turk.
Oh my God, this is like a deja vu now?
Right,
Okay,
yeah. And so I instantly would have this like, oh, they're Turkish, you know, there's this underlying, like a resentment or something, you know, and now I turn it into a bit of a joke. But I like to test that feeling. When I get a feeling inside and I'm like, that's not, you know, I'm like, why am I feeling that? Where's that coming from? And I like to rest with it and have it and analyse it a little bit and go, why? Why do I feel a sudden resentment or something's not right about that situation? And I test myself. Yeah.
Interesting, because, you know, I was born in then Yugoslavia, my country, Croatia, was a part of Yugoslavia. And I remember my parents, you know, my father was the one who was telling me, you know, you don't marry the Serbian, your Serbs are this, Serbs are that, you know what I mean? But the funny thing it is, Helen, what I say to you during the coffee, before we start doing the interview, why you have a more credibility, authority, and why I admiring you. My father was an alpha male. You know, he was a man, he was just... But the moment the war broke out, everything what he told me I should not do it, he did it. Yeah. He ran away, he dumped me, and he's gone. So, you know, you are absolutely right. I think we bring a lot of things from our parents' upbringing. Now, you didn't have enough to be in Iraq. Okay. Then you go into even more bloodier conflict on industrial scale. Ukraine. Now, out of all humanitarian cities and places, Ukraine.
I know.
Why Ukraine?
Again, you're watching all of this unfold on TV. It's massive.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there going, what can I do to help? What can I, sitting back here, I could fundraise, I could set up a GoFundMe, I could reach out to some organisations that I know.
You could put the flag in your profile.
I could put and prayers and all of that as well, which is important. Look, it all has its place. I mean, that if that's what people need to do to feel closer or feel like they've done something, you know. But I think with me, when you've got skills and the ability, I don't know. Why Ukraine? Because I could, because I had the contacts. Again, it cost me a lot of money. You know, the airfare, Mario, to go to Ukraine was like nearly $6,000 out of my own pocket.
In your pocket.
Out of my own pocket. And never mind, when we got there, the organisation that I was affiliated with, you know, there was some costs covered with food and stuff for a few days, whatever it was. But there's a mission there, and you know, whether it's sourcing information, you know, we're waiting on containers to come in, you're visiting hospitals, dealing with, you know, you're seeing firsthand. And these army hospitals, as you know, are just horrendous.
So can you just guide us to everybody now, because
Sure.
again, I say, like, I can't even contemplate what you're going through, because like I was a soldier, but I never had that experience. It's yours different. You left comfort of Australia.
Yeah.
Nice and warm beaches, fish and chips. You know what I mean?
I know.
Cafe latte, matcha.
I know.
For the,
crazy.
For the slaughter of Ukraine, because the war over there, it's like, I would say, like a First World War.
Yeah.
Now, for everybody watching right now, Helen, first day on the ground, what that was look like for you?
As soon as we crossed the border, it was suddenly seeing tanks, and I had to come in through Moldova because a bombing happened. We were supposed to enter through Romania.
Yeah.
A bombing happened and took out a bridge, so then we had to go through. I was sitting in the airport looking at lip glosses and, you know, the makeup or whatever, and like seriously, I was testing out perfumes, and I get a message from the coordinator going, "Listen, bombing's just happened here. We're going to have to change our." You know, can you just jump on now? And now, as soon as you land in Romania, organise a flight to go through Moldova, and I'll meet you there with all the documentation and everything. And so, look, so the first, like, crossing that border and going in, there's kilometres of people coming out, and you're the only one. You, the doctor, actually, it was the doctor there with us at the time. No, me and the coordinator. So me and another man. And, you know, a couple of suitcases, and I had a satellite phone. What's the...
satellite phones, yeah?
No, the big satellite, what's it? The Starlink. So I had the big Starlink box under my arm, and we were walking in, and I remember them not realising, but I was in Moldova opening up. So I'm backtracking a little bit on what you've asked. But I've opened up my suitcase and going, right, what is it that I don't need to carry? And I had things like a gas mask, knowing that where I was going was where the nuclear plant was. So if a bombing happened and hit the nuclear plant, at least that mask would give me about 24 hours to maybe get out of there if I could. So preparing, to get a bulletproof vest. I don't know these things. I went shopping. I was in Anaconda going, guys, where do we get a bulletproof vest from? And they're like, a lady... We don't sell, you're not allowed to purchase those things. And I was like, right. So I'm in Anaconda, and then I was like, BCF, and I'm like, where do I go? And then there was a tactical shop or something. So I'm preparing to go to Ukraine, and I'm reaching out to friends that are paramedics at the moment, because the face mask I had only one filter, and I wanted to try and access a couple of other filters to take with me as well. And so here I am in Moldova, just going, right, I've got the gas mask. I've now been able to source like a vest, a bulletproof vest, preparing. But as soon as you're crossing that border, and there's a few funny stories around that as well, but as soon as you're crossing the border, all you know is that there's kilometres of people coming out, and you're the only one going in.
May I ask you for the moment, before I forget, because I wrote down, you said this few times, kilometres, people, a line of people going kilometers, coming out of Ukraine towards Moldova, Romania, Poland, right?
Poland,
A very few coming in. What was going through your minds, seeing the people fleeing the Ukraine, and you are desperately wanting to help those people?
Yeah, trying to get in. To be honest, for a split second, I was like, Helen, that's where it hits you that, hang on, it's dangerous over there. Like, it is this... But the moment where shit got real, because as soon as we crossed the border, you don't just go to these things without government. A government agent met us in a private vehicle. We had to meet at a hotel. So there was a driver that arrived, took us to this hotel, ended up being a plastic surgery place that... It was empty because all the women had everyone had fled. So we stayed there overnight to meet the disaster coordinator for the entire region of where we were going to. And he was in charge of like 5 different hospitals. So, and just suddenly seeing tanks. And if you're not used to that, just driving along the road and there's tanks. So that's the first thing, is the kilometres of people coming out, and there's suddenly you feel uneasy. You're like, oh wow, okay, this is getting real. I remember getting a SIM card and putting that in my phone and trying to activate it. And there was a Greek journalist who lives in Ukraine who I had seen on Facebook, and I reached out and said, hey, I'm here, I can't understand the language to set up my SIM card, but this is my number. I can't call out on it, but I can receive calls. And he sent me a message not even a minute later, and he said, Helen, I've charged your SIM card with $2 or $5 so you can call out, and anything you need. And he did the big, you know, like we're all on the same team and on the same side. And that was the very first, you know, that very first night eerie, because it was imposed blackouts. And suddenly you're like, oh, quick, it's 7 p.m, 8 p.m, we're not allowed to have phones on, lights on.
Where were you situated, and what?
Well, that was that was the very first night. As soon, because we arrived quite late, it took a lot of hours. It's not just crossing a border; you're stuck there for hours. They want to make sure you're not a spy trying to get intelligence. I had to be very careful about documenting things, any photographs I took, my location on Google. I had to be really, really cautious, messaging any messages that I was sending out, and dumping any photos. Like, I've got a lot of photos on my phone, 15,000 or something, but I was dumping them 5 or 6 years back, so that, because every checkpoint, you move 5 metres and the army are there, they stop you. Passports, phone, you're handing your phone every single time they're going through your telephone. It didn't take long though for the army. Like, there was one particular officer, there was a couple of times I had to pass through the same checkpoint, and he would look at my phone and flick through it, and it was all pictures of food, because I'm a foodie. So I think he looked at me, looked at the camera and goes, yeah, no, she's no spy, she just takes photos of food, you know. But we're driving, because it's 2 days, it was 2 to 3 days for us to get to Zaporizhzhia. So part of Zaporizhzhia was occupied.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, because at the time I didn't realise, I knew it was the red zone, but I didn't know how bad it was until you start reaching out to people that you've seen on Instagram or something, journalists, and they're like, hey, I'm in Ukraine as well, whereabouts are you? And I said, look, I'm in Zaporizhzhia, and they were like, what the hell are you doing there? So when you've even got people that are in Ukraine going, what are you doing there? Because that's where it's happening. Like, that's not just 2 days drive up in that part of the country, that's where it's all happening. But as we were driving, and I know this is long-winded, sometimes I talk too much, but as we were driving, we look, our phones, our telephones, sorry, Mario.
Yeah.
As we were driving, we had to download an app, and it was, instead of sirens going off, it would alert you when missiles were coming. And so suddenly, as we're driving, all our phones started pinging, and it's within a 5 kilometre radius, so it tells you to get down into a bomb shelter. But we're on a main highway. So as we're driving, phones start pinging, we're all looking at it, and a little bomb message comes up. There's nowhere to take shelter, and then as we look out, you just see this big plume of smoke come up, and we could see, you know, a missile hit. It looked like a part of a city or something. But you see that big mushroom of smoke come up, and that is where I remember just looking at the coordinator and the driver, and for me that was my, oh fuck, shit just got real. We're not mucking around anymore. You know, this is really, yeah. And then the weirdest thing, and it's so surreal, we're looking at this big plume of smoke come up. I was trying to take photos of it, and then I look over this way, and there's fields of these gorgeous sunflowers, a canola, you know, the sunflowers, and this gorgeous sunset. And I was just like, I just can't. It was such a contrast. Yeah. We actually pulled over and we took photos of the sunset, and I'm like, this is surreal. There's a missile that's just hit. There's people that are dying over there, and we're just admiring this sunset over these gorgeous fields. So you can be in a war and see the most horrendous things, and you do. When people say to me, what's the worst thing you've seen? I say to them, you picture it, you say it, I've seen it. But you also see beauty as well in the people that you meet, in the surrounding areas. And if you can't, in your heart, find something beautiful, whether it's the people you're looking after, you can't survive it. Like it's a lot.
Look,
Yeah.
again, I just admire you. Like, I'm hoping that it's going to be a lot of media outlets there reaching you for your story, because, no, seriously, because it's a story nobody can change, nobody can take away from you. Human experience with the war, it's unique, and I, for that one, congratulate you for being there. Where the most of men will run out. Most of men will run out. You run into this to help others. Let's talk about human cost of the war. You know, war is all about statistics, more or less. Now, what stayed with you most after everything you saw, you witnessed?
The children. The children. The look. And I saw it in Iraq, and I saw it in Ukraine. And when you see, there's a particular look in their eyes of just nothing. There's a nothingness there. And children shouldn't look like that. You know, the look in their eyes, the heaviness. You see it in the men coming out of the bomb shelters. When there was days that I wasn't helping out at hospitals and doing all the other stuff on the part of the mission that I was there for, I took the time to, there was a refuge actually, because I couldn't just sit around. Everyone was like, well, you know, just have a day off, whatever, but how do you? You can't. Like, it's just really hard to take that time and find the space. But I went to this refuge and I was trying to help cook, you know, chop food up and wash clothes. These people were coming out and they didn't have clothes. They've come out of a bomb shelter after 3 months. And then, you know, you're putting a bit of paper down and getting the children to try and draw something, and they're drawing like planes with angry faces and shooting weapons and houses with blacked out windows. But it's the look in their children's eyes. It's like they're living dead. It's really bizarre. Like, there's nothing. It's like their soul just doesn't even... It's hard to compare
this, what we live in life now, this moment, as you said, that sunset canola field, sunflowers.
And what have those children seen? What they've seen and witnessed. And I've had teachers reach out going, oh, Helen, you know, because when you're in Australia, they're like, oh, I've got some kids that have come just from Ukraine and, you know, I'm looking forward to teaching them. And I'm like, you need to realise these kids have seen torture and trauma. Not just trauma, they've been tortured. Whether they've been caught or not, there's so many layers to war, and it's nasty. It's yeah.
Can I speak about this when you come back in Australia? So you're undertaking currently your PhD?
Yeah.
May I ask in what?
I'm looking at, funnily enough, mental health outcomes for disaster medical teams returning from deployment. So whether that's conflict areas, you know, refugee crises, earthquakes, things like that. So, yeah.
So reality, this is like a social media and influences versus reality. Let's now give reality check. What textbooks, when you come back and start taking your studies in PhD, what textbooks don't teach people and you saw and you can share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. Interestingly, I had written a paper just before I left that was published, and I remember thinking, you know, what can people do when they're in a crisis or in a disaster? And I naively was looking at some of the stuff that's out there, like, oh, you could listen to meditation, you could take the time out to, you know, I don't know, when you're talking about well-being. But when you're in a room, and I actually had anxiety, you're in a hotel, you're only allowed, and I'm painting a picture here, you're only allowed up to the second floor, lights have to be turned off. When you go into a hotel and they say to you, welcome, you're not allowed to pass the second floor. Don't stand next to any of the windows. Keep your curtains drawn at all times. You must be indoors after 7 p.m. Don't turn any lights on. The bomb shelter's downstairs. Like, it's serious. But you can hear, we were that close. Like, we were right there. You can hear bullets. You could hear fire, like weapons firing. You were tempted to look out the window to see what was happening because you could hear things going on. So when you're lying there and you don't know at any minute if this window is going to explode, it's that unknown. and that flighty, anxious feeling that you get. Sorry, Mario, just my brain.
No, that's okay. So, like, as a woman, let's go try to shift, because it's like I can see that you going back in time, and it's so many things.
Oh, there's a lot.
I mean, that's just like I'm truly believing that your story, your life experience deserve a movie. I'm serious. Like, we are surrounded on reality with so many influences, coaches and gurus doing blah, blah, blah. I'm now sitting today with a true unsung hero. You know what I mean? Right. In my eyes, you're a hero, but it's like you're more than just an ordinary woman. And as I say, for what you did, there's no the medal, there's no recommendation, there's no commendation. I can give it to you and say thank you for doing this, because being paramedic in war, it's most humane side of humanity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know that much, and for that one I say thank you for being the human, because this is real experience. This is what reality is. This is not some coach and guru sitting in his mommy bedroom and he does a video, he tells you how to run the life.
Yeah.
You've been there.
Yeah.
Whatever they sip at the matcha and mocha and latte, on the beach, and say, oh, I like to do this, this and this and this.
Yeah.
Being the woman in a war zone, what did you discover? Unique challenges.
Yeah.
For every woman in a war zone, maybe some strengths. As a woman in a war zone.
Yeah.
Maybe you can speak generally about all women, maybe just myself.
Well, I just remember what I was going to say earlier, Mario,
Please,
and I know that you're going to cut all this bit out, so that's okay. What I wanted to say to what you asked earlier is that when you think that you can just do a bit of yoga or do your well-being, I thought I could actually put my earpods in and just listen to some meditation music and find relaxation that way. But when you're listening to the missiles flying over, when you can hear the gunfire outside and that true anxiety, because at any moment that window could smash in.
Yes.
You just don't know. Yeah. And so I really felt, and so all of those papers I've written in the past and all the journals, in academia that I was reading up on, when I'm looking at this subject of how can we support people in a war zone or that are, we've sent to support even, when there's an earthquake and there's there's still ongoing dangers.
Yeah.
It's still dangerous. I honestly thought there was things in place that we could do, and it's hard. I've realised now that it's too difficult. One thing I know, you talk about strengths. I found strength in, and I think everyone needs to listen to this, is it doesn't matter what you're involved in. People always think there's a particular image or there's a particular way you need to present. I've never felt like I've fitted in. I've always felt, yes, I was a paramedic, but I was always overweight. Or, yes, I'm doing a PhD, but I'm very bubbly and smiley personality, and people are like, oh, look, your personality's a bit too, you're not very serious, it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
I've never felt like I've fitted in. My message here is, and one thing I've learnt, is that there's a place for you. And when you talk about strengths,
yes,
because even the coordinator, who was this staunch, German or Austrian guy, even he was a bit like, I don't understand why you're here, Helen, why do we need you? And the day we left, they left me behind, well, not left me behind intentionally, but there was a purpose. But he said to me, Helen, I know now why. Because while they were trying to gather intelligence, having these meetings, I was out the back having a conversation with the cleaner. When we would leave, they'd go, oh, we needed this, and this, and we didn't get this. And I'm like, oh, I know that information. How did you get the information, Helen? Well, I spoke to the cleaner, and that's how I gathered the intel. I had some serious conversations and meetings with commanders of the army that had come out of Donbass, and we're talking about delivering, certain amounts of containers that had come in with equipment and stuff like that. So I'm having these very secret, very covert, even to get there, to have these meetings. And I'm sitting there, the bubbly Helen. Now, if I'd gone in, if they'd sent a group of men in there, it would have been a very different interaction.
Yes.
Because I went in there, I had a softer approach. I didn't go in there chest out, you know,
look at
whatever.
me, yeah.
No, and part of me with the interpreter was like, because we were quite scared actually, because no one knew our location. The organisation I was with didn't know I was there. And I thought, this is it. Like, if we piss these people off,
you'll not see the daylight.
I'm not going to see the daylight. And they've all got guns and a big German Shepherd there. And I had to go in and just be, hey, how you going? And just be a bit ditzy and smiley, and to kind of, and you could see that was like, oh, is this the person we're dealing with? Like, here we are. But you know what? I walked out of there with, you know, we got the message across. I received what they were trying to relay to me. I was able to deliver that information to them in a way that instilled, you know, confidence and stuff. But I just know that those guys would have been like, who the hell are you, man? Like, they're sending her in. But actually, I got the job done, and I got it done in a way that we survived. We walked out. The mission was accomplished, you know. You don't have to be that 6 foot, ripped with abs, you know, that image of, yeah, I'm going to a war. I think it helps when you're different.
Would you mind to describe now when you speak of this one, because I try to convey that and explain to people about soldiers. Even I was in special forces, and I was last century. Nobody around me was a six-pack, you know, muscles, everything else. Can you just briefly explain to people who are the soldiers you saw? How they look like? What's their appearance like?
Everyone that you see outside
Average
every day.
Joe,
Average Joe, scrawny, the ones that were injured, the 17, the 18-year-olds, they were so young, missing limbs. None of them were particularly muscular or fit-looking. And I think Ukraine was very unique in that. Iraq was different because you had the Allies. Yes, they had the Marines there.
Professional soldiers.
Some of us girls would be, they were professional soldiers. Some of us girls would be having our coffee in the morning, watching all the boys, you know, doing their training. Ukraine was very different. It was just civilians.
Yeah.
And in fact, that was the biggest thing that stood out for me. When you're going into Iraq and you've got so many different army planes coming in, helicopters, this, that, the other. Yeah, there were helicopters in Ukraine, but it was all the people, they were just, it was like they just handed guns in the street here in Melbourne just to anybody.
Yeah.
Old men.
Yeah,
old men.
I know that feeling, yeah.
Old men, and you're just going, wow, like, I don't know, they were just so brave. And again, going back to when you asked who's the winner in a war, I still maintain that there's people on both sides. There's mothers on both sides that have sent their kids, not they've sent them, but their kids have been taken away. Both sides. And so who's the real winner? And I almost feel like it's a couple of guys in suits playing a game of chess, you know, or checkers, whatever, with people's lives. Because really, it's not them holding the guns out there. It's their children. You know, there's people's children.
I try to explain this many times in my life. I say, like, you know, when you go in the military at age 18, at least in Croatia, you need to have a health 10 of 10. You know what I mean? So your mother, your parents, you know, all that energy and time and effort to make you healthy, you go in the military, and then, you know, I remember I didn't even want to know the names anymore, the replacement guys, because I didn't know how it's going to last, how long it's going to last in unit. You know, they will come back if they're lucky with our leg or with our arm. You need to return the mother, you know what I mean? And even those funerals, I couldn't handle anymore. But
it's constant.
Yeah, it is. But it's about you today. So for our audience on Life to Battlefield, you saw the horrors of life and the war. But I want to know from you the moment that broke Helen Zahos.
That broke me.
That's correct.
I videoed it. I pressed play on my phone and videoed it. I was in the hotel, and I think it was nearing on 5 a.m. I hadn't slept all night with anxiety, just listening to the bombs and the you know, just there's stuff going on. And I broke down crying, and I videotaped it because people think, wow, that's so, you know, you go out and do these missions and it's so exciting and there's almost like a, not a glory thing, but it's glorified, or it's, but the reality is it's, you know, the video, if you saw it, I'm crying and you can see the snot coming out of my nose, and I'm just like really upset. And I was upset because I remember trying to reach out to my mum and my sister, and I really needed just to hear their voice, and my baby nieces. And I was like, Ange, you know, can you just put the kids on? I just want to hear their voices. And she's like, Helen, we're in the middle of dinner right now. We haven't got time. And I knew I had just such a short window. And so I broke down. But I think that was an accumulation of just seeing a lot. Yeah, seeing a lot. And I mean that, yeah. Remembering Mario, Ukraine's not the only place I've been to. And what I mean by that is, you know, Greece during the refugee crisis, there was a disaster within a disaster there. You know, when you're in a morgue and you're standing there with mothers and you've got babies lined up and you're trying to identify, the parents are trying to, you know, you're helping the parents identify the babies that drowned, and you're trying to, you know, and then they, as refugees, because they've made that decision to flee and get on a boat and go, and now the boat's capsized and the baby's drowned, and that's on them. You know, that's a heavy, for me, that was, yes, I was in a war zone in Ukraine, and yes, I've seen Iraq, but for me, that was a tragedy. And it took me a lot longer to recover from the refugee crisis than probably anything else. Maybe because I was there a bit longer, maybe because I spoke Greek as well and I was bilingual, but that broke me. That, when I came back from that, it took months and months to...
You're a brave woman now.
The guilt that you feel, Mario, the guilt that you feel. When I came back, I felt guilty. Even in Greece, I felt guilty.
Why would you feel guilty?
Because you've got about 10,000 people. It's freezing cold, 10 degrees outside. It's raining. And the selfish me was like, oh, I can't wait to just get to my hotel room and have a warm shower and get into my clean sheets. I just want to get home. And I remember saying to the driver in Greek, run ahead because it's freezing, get the heater on in the car while we wait for the team to get there. And then as I've said that, I've looked down and there's a little girl, she was probably about 4 or 5, and her teeth were just chattering. She was drenched from the rain. It's 10 degrees. And that's when it dawned on me that that girl's going to be out here all night while I go to a hotel room and have a warm shower and have a change of clothes, and that guilt that you feel. And
why are you so honest? Like, this is what I'm trying to say. You're honest. You know why? Because we are celebrating loud heroes.
Yeah.
Very, like, even try to be the hero. You won't portray yourself as a hero. You are showing the most humane face can be. You know, I'm serious. Like, you know, like I don't need to lie or invent things. I saw the war, like, and it's like people like you are truly those silent heroes. While, you know, I saw that many people, like during my time in the war, like, you know, the people who never saw the combat, they get the medals, they be on TV. I said to myself, who is this guy? You know what I mean? Who is this guy? Like, you know, but you, now I want to ask you a question.
Yeah, go
Since
for
we
it.
want to celebrate the loudest mouth and all these self-invented, you know what I mean, proclaimed prophets and the gurus, whatever you want to call them, leaders, you are a very quiet, silent person. Where is this strength born? Where does that strength come from? That's what I'm curious. See, I want people get that from you, Helen. I want people to understand you don't need to be upfront everywhere. And admitting that your ego was bigger than that girl makes you most respected human being in my eyes. So, I just want to know from you.
Look, I think being in the media even was not something I wanted. I remember when I was sitting up in Mareeba in far north Queensland. I'd made the decision on Christmas Island, yes, I was going to go and do this. I'm going to fundraise because I don't want to go empty-handed. I know how important it is when, especially if there's equipment lacking or there's a lack of, you know, access to things. So I went there armed with money to be able to purchase things, you know, along the way. And suddenly I was catapulted. I had radio people contacting me and all this media and newspapers, and then suddenly I was thrust into the media, which helped raise money for the cause. But I didn't ask for that. I'm an accidental hero. I didn't ask to be there, if that makes sense. And so, but then I also realised, and it dawned on me, the importance of it, because suddenly what I was seeing, and it's something unusual for nurses, you keep things private with your patients, but suddenly I found myself standing there, Mario, with my mobile phone inside the camp and just going, this is what's actually going on. This isn't just what the country we're in is trying to hide and disguise and whatever. This is the reality. And I realised suddenly I had a voice and people were listening.
Yes, that's great, yes.
And people were following.
Yes.
And then I realised that, wow, okay. And so as exhausted as I was, especially during the refugee crisis, I would speak to the media. I would take that time to give them because you've got conspiracy theorists out there who don't even believe that a war's going on in Ukraine, as an example.
True.
Whereas even if I'm on Facebook, and I did it strategically because, your safety's at stake, I did post stuff, but after the fact, to protect my location, everything. As you know, you've got to be very strategic and very cautious. But to also show that, this is the reality, that I am in a war. This is, so finding that strength. I know what you're saying. I didn't ask.
But see, we are witnesses, like from the day number one, I told the people around me, I saw these Hollywood celebrities coming into Ukraine. I said to myself, these people will not go for the coffee if it's not safe.
Yeah.
I know how they're coming and how it's organized and, all this, look at me. Of course, they try to bring attention in Ukraine, but they are celebrities.
Yeah.
And they come one day, to
take
talk to
the
Zelensky. It's like, but what's with ordinary people? The war is not celebrities. They come and goes.
Yeah.
People like you are in the war. People like you helping those with the scars. Which leads me to another question.
Yeah, sure.
As being woman and as being, non-combatant, but you saw the wounds of the war, on both sides, among civilians. How do you deal with those scars? How do you deal with things we can't fix, which is our mental health? And you can maybe share this with the audience and say, this is maybe you can apply in your daily life.
I don't think I've got it so good though, Mario.
Why?
I don't think I've mastered it because, as you know, I have my own struggles. I struggle with it, and I'm going to be very open and frank now. But you reach an age where you start searching the whys, and you start calling out the bullshit and the stuff that you. And what I mean by that is, I grew up in the Northern Territory and there's a large drinking culture up there, and we binge drink and we do whatever, and using that as an excuse, if people talk about me, they're like, oh, Helen, she loves a drink. So, coming home, even after as the paramedics were as well, we'd all go out for a drink after a big job. Let's debrief, but let's sit around at the pub and talk about it, sit with your friends. And lately I've been addressing, and it's not that it's that bad, but it's something I don't like about myself, is, you're using alcohol. I don't use drugs, but using other things to try and numb things or self-medicate. So, calling yourself out on that and being aware of it, not just disguising it as something that, and so I've been speaking to counsellors, not just around alcohol. Recent diagnosis of ADHD, probably not a surprise with, the stuff that I've done. But I can't give advice, I feel, because I don't think I've got it right yet.
I think you can give advice to everybody, actually. You have the full right to tell everybody advice. Yeah,
well, the advice is, calling it out for what it is. Stop lying to yourself.
Because it's are you okay day or whatever it is. So that's the has a good meaning and it has a good potential, but in reality, a lot of people hiding that day behind the social media. Look, are you okay? And everything else. But
it's deeper.
Being there, you trade the comfort of life.
Mario, it's deeper than that. And I've had friends, even at the end of last year or mid last year, commit suicide after years of, you're seeing it every day. I've seen colleagues fall, even just through not basic, but general nursing, for example, because the pressures are so great. And the things that you see, you don't have to go to a war zone necessarily. You can be here. Being in a war zone, you have more layers. The pressures, the fears, but yeah, I don't know, I'm not answering this very well.
I think you answered very well.
I'm sorry, I just feel like we're human, and there's this false sense of, you go to war zones so you're okay, but that doesn't mean that you're coping that okay. And you might be telling yourself you're coping, but really, when you start looking at the behaviours, looking at patterns, looking at relationships and things like that,
I'll agree with you 100%, and I'll back up this because for one simple reason. I saw what happens to the young man who, like me, 18 years old, we go in a war full of hopes and dreams and, everything else. And then somehow war ends. One way or another war ends. Either it's a capitulation, you win, or whatever it is, it ends. And society doesn't need you anymore.
Yes.
You becoming the burden for... I was lucky enough, I was young enough, and I had the good commanding officer, was a general, who told me, you were there when I needed you for the one moment. So I'll make sure that you stay in a professional, what's it calling, armed force. And I said, thank you very much. Because they were replacing us with the new guys from the school. And I said, what does that even mean? We are not good enough anymore? No, you're not, because you become either drug addict, alcoholic, nightmares, PTSD, which I was the one who neglected that, heavily. So for you, you have full right to tell the world, Helen. That's what mental health it is.
Yeah.
That's what you saw in Iraq, in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Working Northern Territory as well. I know the story you told me. Seeing things in islands, where the refugees there are and other things, and the communities we don't even know exist. And takes a special breed of the human to help those ones, because we are closing eyes on everything which is not polished and nice and beautiful.
I think, Mario, if we were to be overly selective and only choose the beautiful locations, I think that's what drives me, is that no one else will. No one else wants to go. No one else, it's not glamorous, it's not easy. It's really not easy. Not just mentally, financially, it's a burden, it's a lot. It's a lot of sacrifice.
How much money did you make going to Iraq and Ukraine?
Making.
Yeah, how much money did you make?
I lost money. I lost money because I wasn't working. I lost money because I had to pay my own way.
Okay, so I can understand. You not earn nothing, you go on your own expense.
Yeah.
And you go to help the people.
Yeah. But I almost feel like I get more of a reward. I know that sounds terrible, but in Iraq, I remember looking at this IDP camp, internally displaced people camp. When I say camp, we're not talking 50 people, we're talking 500,000, hundreds of thousands of people. It's like a city, tent city. And it's overwhelming, because where do you start? And, that particular time, there was one girl that we helped out and tried to get her out with severe burns and everything, and sometimes you just have to look at that one person, and if you can tell yourself, if I can make a difference just to this one, it's less overwhelming then. Because if you look at the 20,000 other kids with burns or 10,000 other kids, then it's just too much. And I've actually had people say that to me. Why bother, Helen? As if that one little thing that you do is going to make a difference. People have said that to me, and I'm like, wow, if we all thought like that. Imagine if we all had that attitude of, it's too much, it's, it just has to be that one person, or one little change, or one, it doesn't have to be going to a war zone. It can be just helping someone out in the street, helping, something positive. everyone's very safe at the moment. Keyboard warriors, they're behind you, they're very quick.
Yeah.
And it's often these people that comment and have the biggest views on things that have actually never taken the time, let alone their own funds, let alone putting themselves forward to make a difference. But they're very quick to judge, place judgment, and I've been on the receiving end of that. I've had death threats through social media. I remember Golden Dawn, who were very anti-refugee. They didn't want people helping the refugees. I remember them posting my picture up, and they had 100,000 people on their page, and they just went hell for leather. If she ever steps foot in Greece again, I'm going to cut her legs off, you know. She deserves to be raped and murdered, blah, blah, blah. And it just went on. And I remember just hiding under the blankets for 2 days, crying, just going, oh my gosh, like, and everyone's like, oh, don't worry about it, Helen, you know. Don't take it so seriously, just ignore it. And I'm like, yeah, but that's my face and my name up there that they're attacking. And I've just given my heart and soul. I've seen the worst of the worst. I've been mistaken for a police officer and hit in the face with a metal pole during a riot. You know, like you give your heart and soul. You're walking away mentally, that you're injured. You know, you've sacrificed a lot, and then you're getting attacked as well. You come home and there's no one cheering for you at the airport. No one's waiting. No one like you, the soldier that suddenly is, you know, you're not needed anymore. It's the same thing. You come back and it's just like, no one's going to pat you on the back and say, hey, good on you, or anything like that. I don't know. I go back to that. If you can just do one nice thing for one person, you know. So that's how I try and, Iraq, that's how I try to tackle it. Ukraine, the same thing. Why was I going in on a day off when I didn't have to have anything particular, and no meetings with mayors, no hospital visits, no, you know, disaster stuff. It was, I went into a refuge and it was like a house, and I was making beds, I was cleaning sheets, I was cleaning clothes to help, you know. You can't even entertain the kids there. It's there's no happiness. There's just such a heaviness in that space. So even if I can help make a meal, I'm not the greatest cook. Yeah.
Final message for the world. Listen now. What Helen message will be to the world? What your message will be? Don't be afraid. I want you to speak your heart. And as I said to you, as somebody who was in a war, somebody who saw, you know, the moral injustice, you know what I mean, and wrongdoings by any sides and any type of people, societies, color of the skin, the religion, I saw them all. What your message would be? Somebody who helped all of us, including me today.
Yeah, to be kind. So it doesn't matter what belief you've got, whether you're on the right or the left, to sometimes look things from the middle and look at both sides. And you can have a belief now, Mario, and I'll have an opposing belief, but that doesn't mean we can't sit here and have a conversation and still be friends. You know, at the moment, there's so much division around the world, whether we're looking at, you know, the US, what's happening in Gaza, it doesn't matter what topic we talk about. I feel like everyone's so divided at the moment. No one can sit in the middle and just respect that we've got opposing views. Like I said before, it doesn't matter which side. Was it Russia? Was it Ukraine? You know, there's people on both sides, and both sides has a story. So just be kind.
At the beginning, if I just sorry to cut you off here.
Yeah.
You said something important. They all have their mothers.
Yeah.
Mothers both sides. Helen, on behalf of this podcast, Life to Battlefield, on behalf of every person you helped and you will help, for every person who's listening right now, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. It's not like, as I say, the war is something I don't want to talk about. Even when my son asked me, you know, about war, it's like, I was just a cook, right? I mean, he said, I know you're lying, I read your book, it's like, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
But you're different. You helped everybody. On behalf of every human being on this planet.
Oh, thank you.
I'm serious, Helen.
Yeah.
I'm wishing you all the best with your PhD.
Thank you.
And I'm very grateful for being my guest today on Life to Battlefield. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for having me on. I'm blessed to meet you, honestly.
Thank you, Helen. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Helen Zahos. I'm going to put her contact details down in the description section. you can contact her and feel free to reach her, give her support, give her love on her social media, particularly these media outlets. Feel free to reach Helen. Let's share her story on your platform. Till next time, thank you.